Good morning. Thank you for coming out this morning. The great democratic process of elections. This is the board forum. We've compacted the format a little bit because of the size of the room and different constraints. Would you please join us and stand in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, thank you for coming out. We are the NEA. We have 3.2 million members nationwide, the largest organization of our kind in the United States. Approximately 1 in every 100 Americans belongs to the NEA. We have decided one of our core beliefs is that the press is of vital importance to our nation, a free and unregulated press, not only to basically talk about the positives as far as growth in school districts and good things that are happening, but also to serve as a, what you might say, watchdog. We have invited the press in today. Bob Tavera, he is from Channel 2. He is going to be one of our moderators. Bob has been with Channel 2 since 2004, correct?
1999.
1999. He is one of those guys that gets up first thing in the morning and has to be on the air at 6 a.m. I admire that. Ken Newton has been with the news press since 1994, correct? Ken has done some amazing interviews. He's interviewed George H. Bush. He's also interviewed Bob Edwards. He has also interviewed Linda Ronstadt and Alice Cooper within his career. He's had a very broad career. He is also on the Associated Press Council for the Associated Press. We thank them so much for coming in. We are going to let them run the questions. They are the professionals, and we are going to let them run the questioning session. They're going to run through the format, and then we're going to go from there. Thank you again very much.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. What a great turnout for this, and for the candidates. You know, I know this isn't a glamour job. It's not an easy job right now, and this community needs you. And bless you for being here, and bless you for being putting your name out there. I know you've had to go through a number of these forums before. I bet you're glad this part of it's over. Anyway, so what we hope to do is over the next couple hours is ask you some questions, hopefully some good questions, but I think some pointed questions as well. And we're going to have a period of time where you're going to introduce yourselves. We're going to have a period of time where we're going to ask you some things. And then we've got some audience questions too, and we'll go back and forth on that. So, Bob, would you like to add anything?
I thank everybody for coming out. This is an amazing turnout here. I didn't imagine every seat would be filled and then some. So thank you, everybody, for having the interest to come out and be a part of something that's quite important, and that's our children's education.
Okay, well, very good. I think we're going to get, and Lacey is going to serve as our timekeeper. What we'd like to do is, and with this many candidates, we don't want to turn this into sort of those early Republican debates where people feel like they, that what we want to do is not have any filibusters, but not have anyone leave at the end of the day and think they didn't have their say. In the opening remarks here, Lacey is going to time that and show that when it's time for you to stop talking. So so anyhow, we're going to get started here, and we'll go in the order that you're on the ballot. And the first one is John Steer. John, 1 minute. Thanks so much for being here.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming. Number one on the ballot. Appreciate your vote. I worked in Omnium Chemical here in St. Joe for 25 years. Substitute taught at all the high schools and middle schools in this town. I think we've had a really great educational system. I was coach of the National Junior Chess Champion. Personally, I was runner-up National Chess Champion in the reserve section. I think we've still got a good future in this town. Thank you.
Okay. Next on the ballot is Eric Bruder.
Thanks, Ken. My name is Eric Bruder. I've been a resident of St. Joseph for most of 34 years. I love this city and the people here and want to see the city progress, and I think the school district's critical in making that happen. I believe in complete and thorough fiscal responsibility and a solid vision for improvement and accountability and accomplishing the mission of educating every child for success. And most importantly, in that process, ensuring taxpayer dollars are used efficiently and effectively in accomplishing that mission. A board member has to do both to provide the proper oversight. My education, my experience, and my service record speak for itself. I have a BS in Electronics Engineering Technology from Missouri Western and a Master's in Business Administration from Rockhurst University. I'm a veteran of the United States Army and a U.S. Infantry combat veteran. I have over 23 years of high-level business experience and have extensive financial background that I think can be put to good use in helping to right this district. We still have much left to do here, and my focus as a board member will be continued on fixing the remaining issues, and there are a lot of them in this district.
Okay,
Thank
Eric,
you.
your time is up.
Okay. Next, Maggie Elder. Maggie?
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank you all for showing up. I figured 9:30 in the morning on Saturday morning. It's all I could do to get up. I was born and raised in Savannah, northeast of town. I started my education in a one-room country school, graduated from Savannah, went to Guards Business University, and started my work right after I got out, so within 6 months of getting out of high school. The last job I had, I was with the school district for 27 years. I had numerous jobs. My last job was the book room, where I was in charge of all the textbooks and all the art supplies and crayons to computers, and at 62, the 70-pound boxes of books were getting a little bit much, and so I retired in 2000. I think I bring my knowledge of the school district and how it has been in the past and what it can be in the future, and I would appreciate all your vote. Thank you.
All right, very good. Our next candidate is Art Van Meter. Mr. Van Meter?
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to thank the NEA for inviting me to participate in this forum. I've spent the last 41 years in a successful business environment, managing finance, risk management, and overseeing budgets on multi-million-dollar projects. My decision to run for the Board of Education is based on my belief that we as a community have an obligation to provide a superior education for our young people. In order to fulfill that obligation, I believe that we must insist that the school district set forth goals that use our tax dollars in the most prudent and efficient manner. I believe my 41 years of experience qualifies me to contribute to the development of a sound fiscal policy based on sound business practices. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Next is Sarah Hochschwinder.
Hello, I'm Sarah Hochschwinder. I moved here to St. Joseph from Tampa, Florida 10 years ago and have a BA in psychology from the University of South Florida. Nelson Mandela said that education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to choose the world. This is why I'm running for the Board of Education. The reasons why I chose to run for the board and the personal attributes which best recommend me for the position on the board are the same. I have seen far too much in being a watchdog for the district to think that our work is even close to complete. My hundreds of meetings and work sessions speak to the personal investment I will make in being actively involved. You know this because I already took OPA to task at the very first work session, and from watching that, I promise you I will not see entire departments outsourced. I found $1 million error in the ballot to build 2 new schools. I want to put scarce resources into classroom teachers before we worry about building new classrooms. I was shouting at Zerwanka for promoting his wife while the MSTA reps were instead reading poetry from the podium. You can count on me to be a watchdog. You can trust this is the truth. I've been proving it to you for 8 years.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Kathy Northrup is next.
Good morning, everyone. I'm a lifelong resident of St. Joseph and a North End girl. I graduated from Lafayette in 1973, and then my husband and I are both graduates of Northwest Missouri State, so we've been bleeding green for a long time in our household. Retired last May after a 37-year career in this school district. It was my honor and privilege to teach Honors European History, AP European History, and International Baccalaureate European History. And so with that background, I know a lot about the programs in this district, what makes this district tick, and I also, with that long tenure in the district, know where we went off the tracks, and I have a good sense of what it's going to take to put us back on. I am the NEA. I've been an NEA member proudly for 38 years, my first year of teaching in Iowa, and then 37 years here in St. Joseph. So I'll welcome your vote on Tuesday.
Thank you, Kathy. Brian Green.
Hi, good morning. My name is Brian Green. I'm a physician in the area practicing family medicine. My goals for running for the school board: 1, rebuild trust and restore faith in our schools and our school district. 2, help put our schools on a path that would take them to a place where they would be a pride of our community, a reason that family and businesses would choose to move to St. Joe. 3, gear our schools to meet specific needs within our community, namely reverse the increasing poverty trend in our community, and 2, collaborate with the workforce needs of our business community. My strengths and values that I feel I would bring to the board include servant leadership, a love and pride for my hometown, a faith in a better way and a better day to come, and I will treat all people with respect and dignity and value all roles within the district. I'm a listener and value good communication. I'm a community engager. I'm a team builder, and I bring a fresh perspective.
Thank you, Brian. Teresa Simmons is next.
Thank you all for having us here today. We've done about 9 of these forums, so we're all getting kind of used to each other and the introductions and what we say. I've been in lending for 35 years in this area, and I've done loans for thousands and thousands of people, and many have worked for the district. They're all devoted to their jobs, and it's time for this community to turn that around and be devoted to them. People keep asking me, why are you doing this? Why are you throwing your hat in the ring? And the reason for me is there's 11,000 students every day that go to school here. And for a lot of those students, education is the only way they're ever going to succeed in life. We owe it to these children to give them every opportunity and create a path for them so that they can pick and choose. We don't need to cut programs. We need to expand programs so that they all can find where their heart's desires are and they can be successful. That's why I'm running for school board. My name is Teresa Simmons. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Tammy Pasley is next.
Good morning. I hope to bring a voice of reason to the school board. I bring 26 years in education, 19 years at the elementary level, and 7 years as a middle school math teacher. In that 26 years, for 23 years out of it, I have worked very closely with the Missouri legislature and the Commissioner of Education and the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education in trying to make education in Missouri the best that it can be. My experiences have been, or have allowed me the opportunity to become very well schooled in the business of school, and probably of all the candidates here today, I know the business of school, and I would appreciate your vote Tuesday.
All right, Tammy, the last name on the ballot is Michael Dulkin.
Hello. I've been a lifelong resident for 70 years. I'm the manager, owner, operator of a lawn service for 40 years, part-time. I'm also manager partner of Dulkin Farms. I've had 3 years of college at Maryville, or at St. Joseph Junior College, and then a year in Maryville, and then was activated. I was in the Naval Reserve, and I was activated to go to Vietnam, and I did my tour of duty there, and I received a Navy Commendation Medal with Combat V and a staff service and a Vietnamese Staff Service Honor Medal. I've been on the Planning and Zoning Commission in St. Joseph. I've been a homeowners president of Morningside Association and a Homes Association president also. I retired from the U.S. Postal Service as a postmaster. I worked here in St. Joe for about 19 years, and I was also U.S. Postal Systems examiner.
All right, Michael, thank you for your service. Next, we're going to get into some questions from Ken and myself, and these are questions that have been kind of posted together before you guys got together today. So, Ken, I think you've got the first one.
Yeah, what we'd like to do here is, how we've tried to organize this is to ask questions two specific individuals on certain things, but then let, after that person is answered, anybody that wants to chime in. So we don't get into that having to go down the line and do everything. If you got an opinion on it, state your opinion. If you don't, we'll get on to the next question. But our first question is for Mr. Bruder. Superintendent Robert Newhart began his work in the district on July the 1st of last year. 5 months later, he was given a 2-year extension on his contract. You were on the board at this time and helped make this decision. Tell us, you and the other candidates here, of the comfort level of making a decision like that in a tight, in a 5-month time frame.
I think it's a great question. I mean, Dr. Newhart was brought into the district for a specific reason, to help with an interim process and right-sizing the district after a brutal state audit. Dr. Newhart has all the characteristics that I would want as a full-time superintendent going forward. He's honest, he's ethical, and he has the wherewithal to stand up and make tough decisions in a difficult decision-making environment. And so at that point in time, rather than go through a recruiting process and waste another $50,000 to $100,000 of taxpayers' dollars on a recruiting effort, we decided as a board to offer Dr. Newhart an extension, and I think the decision was a good one. He continues to get better daily. I mean, his character comes out every day in correspondence with him. The public doesn't always get to see that, but I know people within the district that work with him every day see what he stands for, and I think we made a very good decision with Dr. Newhart going forward. Whether I get elected or not, I think you have a great superintendent.
Other candidates? Yes, Mr. Van Meter.
I'd just like to make the comment that if you have attended any of the school board meetings, you will see that Dr. Newhart, as well as the board, is making steps forward in the correct and right decision, and I applaud them for that.
Ms. Northrup, you had
I've known the Newhart family for a long time. You know, Dr. Newhart's mother was the finest educator I ever knew, and she was also a good friend of mine. So I come to the Newhart family in a very positive manner. But I have to say that had I been serving on the board, I would not have granted that 2-year extension so early, and here's why. I think when we're talking about this kind of a situation and the kind of problems that this district has had, I think it's going to take a little more than just saying he's a man of character to convince me that that 2-year extension was warranted. I vouch for his character. But his background is primarily from small rural school districts, and this is not that. Anymore, when we compare ourselves to other school districts, we talk about Liberty, we talk about Platte County, we talk about Park Hill, North Kansas City. That's where our focus is now. It's not north, it's south. And so I would have given a few more months before I granted that extension. And when I did grant it, it probably would have been for a year only. One final comment. Several people in the district who have associations with downtown have said that one of the reasons that extension needed to be granted was that there needed to be a situation downtown where Dr. Newhart was given every opportunity to be successful in writing this district. My first question is, who downtown who would have been preventing him from doing that, and why are they still with the district? I don't know that that extension was necessary at a 6-month level. If there are people downtown sabotaging our efforts, get rid of them. There are other places where they can be an administrator other than the St. Joe School District. We have important work before us, and we don't have time for that kind of nonsense.
Thank you. Yes, Maggie.
Again, I've known Dr. Newhart's family for years. His mother and father were both from Savannah. I've known the family forever. Dr. Newhart has followed in his mother's footsteps. He is an educator. Yes, he has been serving in small schools, but everything that happens in a small school also happens in a large school. And by working in a small district, he knows every avenue of a school district. He can look at he knows what's going on in every department. And I think it was a wise choice. I support Dr. Newhart fully. Thank you.
Yeah. Mr. Steer.
I think Dr. Newhart is more intelligent than I am. Even though he has served in Princeton, Missouri, and Cameron, and one other district, They're small, but he's grown in the field. I believe he was a principal at Cameron from 1988 to 2000. I think 2 years is really not very long. I think it's going to take 4 years to write this district. Thank you.
Thank you. Others? Yeah,
Yeah.
Dr. Green.
Sure. Dr. Noor, would you like to stand while we evaluate you here?
I was well aware he was sitting right behind.
You know, I think as I've seen this district in the last 2 or 3 years, the number one trouble we're having right now as a community is trust. And I think Dr. Newhart answers that. I think I appreciate your character. I appreciate you're a man that this community can trust. I recognize your limitation and experience for a district this size. I do. I get that. But I appreciate your trust. I appreciate your character. I appreciate that you're a man who is dedicated to cleaning up the mess this community faces. And so I appreciate that. Going forward, I'd love to see more community engagement. I would love for you to have the opportunity to get to the buildings, talk to the teachers, talk to your principals, get out in the community. I hope that will be the case. And I hope that as we overhaul some of the operations in the district, you will have that opportunity.
Yes, Ms. Pasley.
I too was kind of taken aback with the offer of the contract so soon after Dr. Newhart came, but I will say that I don't know Dr. Newhart as well. I know of him having taught in Savannah, and his family is very well respected. And the one thing, though, that I found out in the last couple of months is that this board didn't take that decision lightly, I know. And we're just talking about building trust, and we're it needs to start with trusting that sitting board. And so I trust that they were the ones who interviewed to have Dr. Newhart to come to begin with, and they saw the qualities in him that we haven't been afforded the opportunity to see yet. And he seems to work well with the board. He respects the board respects him, so I give that matter of trust to the board, that they felt like he was the right person. I'm going to trust that he is the right person. I concur with Dr. Green in that I would love to see Dr. Newhart out in the community more and out in the schools more, and I'm sure that's his desire too. I'm sure he's been overwhelmed in the few months he's been with us with all there is to do, but I look forward to serving with Dr. Newhart.
Great.
I think we need to move on to the next
Yeah.
question. Okay. It's made very obvious to everybody in this room the financial problems that the school board is faced with right now and continues to face. And many people are saying, well, why don't we run it more like a private business? So this question goes specifically to Art and Teresa. What do you think needs to be done in order to move the board more to that direction? Let's go with you first, Art.
I believe that the school district is a business. It's $130 million a year business, and that business is educating our young people. That comes first. But you can only provide a good education by having a sound fiscal policy. You have got to have the trust of the taxpayers, and the only way you can gain that trust is to show them that their tax dollars are being spent in the most efficient manner and without sacrificing the education of the students.
All right, Teresa?
I believe that we're talking two different things. I believe the budget part of the district has to be run like a business, but I believe that the board hires an educator to run the education portion of our district. I believe it's two different things. Because you do have that size budget, you need a balance of people on the board. I don't think you need 7 business people. I don't think you need 7 teachers. I don't think you need 7. I just think you need a balance of people that can spot the differences and bring their real life experiences to the board, so they can identify something that may be wrong, that you're looking at before you make these decisions, and can bring all this stuff, all the discrepancies that they may need to have information on before they make these big decisions. I believe a board's job is to set policy, set a budget, hire the best superintendent. By the way, I think you do a really good job. But hire the best superintendent you can, and let that superintendent run the district, because he knows education. That's why you hire him. He's the one out there that's going to be holding people's feet to the fire, and it's the board's job to hold his feet to the fire. So I believe you have to have I think you have to have a balance and a blend in there of business and just common sense in let the superintendent run the education portion of the district.
Okay, Kathy wants to weigh in on this.
Well, I think it's clear that we're on the right financial path, and I first of all want to make the point that educators have been questioning the finances of this district for 20 years. This notion that we sat there and wrote on a chalkboard for 20 years and there was no businessman to save us, I'm sorry, the boards of education have been full of businessmen over the years. Tax attorneys, CPAs, and we would go to them risking insubordination, I might add. I have an insubordination letter in my file, which is no longer there, but I'm going to let the FBI handle that. But this notion that we just sat on our hands and played games with children is ridiculous. We all know how to manage a budget. The district has 4 funds. 4. My husband have clients who have dozens. We can handle this, but what I question is, does a businessman really know what it takes to ask the academic questions we need to be answering? We've got some huge issues before us. Are we going to keep the IB program? It's an expensive program to run. It's amazing. I taught in it, but it's darned expensive. Or are we going to expand AP? We need to bring teachers in to talk to that. When we order furniture, our warehouse is full of furniture that is broken and horrible because a bean counter ordered furniture that didn't work in our classrooms, and it broke and it wasn't sturdy. No one asked us. And they would order the same furniture year after year after year. It's more than a business. And those educators in the classroom know from the front lines everything from their classroom budget to furniture to academics and curriculum. Your educators are your well-rounded members of the board. And I just resent the fact that we didn't know what was going on for 20 years and we were ignorant, and now we're going to be saved by a couple of businessmen.
Okay,
Thank
Eric
you.
Bruder.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to weigh in here. I agree with Teresa. I think the board needs a varying degree of perspectives. I think it's healthy. You know, you need a varying degree of people on the board. You need business people, you need educators, you need varying degree so that you get good, sound insight and perspectives from those type of things. But this district, I mean, there's many accountability issues that are still being uncovered as we speak. Okay, many. And business people do have a very good knack of taking resources and making sure they get applied to accomplish the mission properly. And they're very good for accountability reasons. I'll give you a prime example. Many of you do not know, we've got a warehouse on 9th Street that's got high definition televisions sitting in storage right now that somebody who no longer works for the district purchased, that are sitting down there in boxes that were never installed. Did anybody know that? No. Okay, 1. Okay, two.
Your teachers knew. Thank you.
But my point is, you know, teachers are now starting to come forward. They were coming forward in the past, but I myself get calls on a daily basis with things. I think people are becoming much more comfortable with saying, hey, do you know about this? Get with Dr. Newhart. Let's check into it because this is a problem. I'll give you another example. Webster. Okay, we've got a program over there right now that has a director and 4 teachers and 11 students. And over half those students leave at 11:20 each day. So in the afternoon, you've got classrooms sitting empty with teachers there that your tax dollars are paying. That's waste. Okay? It needs to be fixed. So it takes somebody to identify those issues, do the research, get with Dr. Newhart, and fix those problems and go forward so that tax dollars get spent properly and effectively. Okay? Take somebody with a little bit of moxie to stand up and don't care who they make mad in the process to ask those difficult questions. And I'm sure, like my good friend down here, she has plenty of moxie. She can definitely do that. Okay? Okay, no doubt about it. Okay, but you need people like that, okay, and like others that are sitting up here that are going to ask those questions and hold people accountable and put the dollars where they need to go. We've got teachers that are underpaid dramatically. Okay, we got a 13.8% turnover rate in the classroom. Okay, it's caused by low teacher comp, high student-teacher ratios, and a poor work environment. We've got to fix all 3 of those. So we've got to cut waste and put money there where it belongs in the classroom. So whether it's a business person or a very strong-minded educator, you got to have those people on the board.
Okay. All right, this is probably a question that we could spend all day on, but we'll get Teresa, I think you've got a quick thought, and then we'll go to Sarah and then move on.
I don't think there's any debate among the 10 people sitting up here that you need a blend of people on the board. I don't think anybody up here thinks you need 7 educators or 7 business people, and I think the voters are going to have to decide what kind of balance they want on the board. You know, we've got a physician who knows how to work with people. We've got retired persons who have worked in the postal service. I mean, we've got a real variety of people up here, and I think people just need to study their candidates. We've got a watchdog that's been watching the district for about 8 years, so and calling the shots. So I think you've got a real balance. I think you've got a real choice to make between your candidates up here, and I think we just want to get that board balanced so we never go back to the kind of board that we had before. And we did have an educator as the president of the school board for a dozen years. So we need to have that balance.
Okay, Sarah, quickly, please.
Well, the word we're all looking for up here is diversity. I just want to say, but I would also say that if we really want to talk about how teachers can best make sure they're going to be represented, I urge you all to join the NEA immediately. I support the NEA. I do not support going back to negotiating in the past, which caused, or at least who's during watch, the dichotomy in wages began. And I think we need a real change, and I think the NEA is it.
Okay. All right. Before we move on, can I ask everybody to make sure your phones are on stun?
We'll move on to the next question then. And as we talk about fiscal accountability and some of the cuts that have been made, and some people may agree with what's been done so far, some people may disagree, but we can agree that I think that to have substantive cuts, I guess what I'm saying is big cuts, eventually that's going to amount to personnel because that's where most of the money in the district goes. Once you do that, you run the risk of increasing student-teacher ratios. And I would like to ask 3 of the people that do have backgrounds in education, direct it to them first, Ms. Pasley, Ms. Elder, and Ms. Northrup. What do you make of, what is your comfort level when you get to a number on student-teacher ratio? How does that affect the end product, the students coming out of the classroom? How does it affect the teachers?
If I could go first on that. First of all, I would say that the school district cannot be all things to everybody, and we have to understand that. And when there are cuts, it is going to affect some personnel. But where we have to be very careful is protecting those cuts that are going to directly affect kids. Student-teacher ratio is huge. The larger the class, the less that teacher's going to have contact with those individual kids, and kids need individual attention. And we wear ourselves out every day. Those of you that are educators in the room know that when you go home every day, you are mentally and physically spent because you have used every second of every minute to reach the need of a diversity of kids in a classroom. And so there are recommendations out there by every education association. There are recommendations out there by DESE that say what is a good ratio of students to kids. I think that we as a district need to make that decision on our own. There needs to be lots of local control and thought that go into what does good student-teacher ratio look like, but it is definitely a concern because that definitely affects the education of the child.
Great. And Ms. Elder, please.
It's been proven time and time again that the smaller classroom that the kids do better in a smaller classroom. There are ways that we can look at the whole district to come up with cuts. It doesn't. I certainly don't want to be one that says it all has to come from the education part. We have to look at the budget line by line. We have to look at every department to decide where that cut can be, because we cannot get to the point where we've got 30 kids in a classroom. It does not work.
Okay, and Ms. North.
Believe it or not, the research shows grades 7 through 12 overwhelmingly that class size does not affect instruction. I can't believe that, but there are a lot of people with doctorates in education who think that you can really load those kids in the high school. Here's the problem with that. Yeah, the rooms will probably hold them, but I know, having taught all different kinds of programs. AP, for example, wants you to limit classrooms to 20. And there's a reason why they want you to do that. Because if you have more kids, it affects the kinds of assignments that you can offer. So if you load those classrooms deep, as a teacher, you physically are not going to have time for the kids to do the writing and the exploration that you would like for them to do. If your classes are larger, you're going to be forced to do a lot more ABCD objective kinds of things, and that's not what we want to be doing in our classrooms right now. And we have to be so careful of that locally. You know, we talk about running it like a business. You go online, you look at that research, and it'll tell you those older kids will be fine with those bigger classrooms. But educators know that if you want them to do the writing that is required now on a lot of the standardized tests, their teachers are going to have a time to teach them how to do that and grade those papers. And bigger class sizes are not going to accomplish that for you.
Mr. Bruder?
Yeah, I think it's a very, very important question because there's nobody up here, Art and myself included, that believe in cutting and raising student-teacher ratios. That's not what this is about. We believe in cutting the waste and putting the money in the classroom where it belongs and adding teachers where we have the space to add teachers and lower those student-teacher ratios, and where we don't have the space to add the space. Short-term, that means temporary classrooms. Long-term, it means building expansions and new buildings, which require trust and taxpayer support to get that done. It's a very, very important topic. Student-teacher ratios are critical. And I, for one, am a huge proponent in lowering those ratios and adding the teachers where we need to add them.
Yes, Mr. Steer.
Yes, Ken, when I taught middle school, I let the kids divide up into groups and do group study. Sometimes they can learn more that way. I actually got audited. Principal and some higher up came into my class and was surprised with how behaved the students were and the learning environment that they were in. Our current school district is producing some great minds. Last week's paper, we had a marine biologist take a picture of a volcano over the Aleutian Islands. He was a graduate of Benton. I have a niece that's graduated from Lafayette, currently going to medical school. I think that we've been doing a great job.
Great. Mr. Van Meter?
You know, I agree with most of what's been said so far on this topic, but, you know, I think the question was, in trying to balance a budget, ultimately, it's going to come down to personnel. And I believe that, but I also believe that that personnel cannot be out of the teacher group. The number of teachers in this district is under what it should be at this point. We have got to hire additional teachers. And if you go back to about 1990, I think what you'll find is the number of students in this district has decreased, and at the same time, the number of administrators has increased. So that's where we need to look first in trying to balance a budget. I'm not saying our administrators aren't doing a good job. I'm just saying that, and there may be certain federal state guidelines that require more administrators, but that's where we need to look first.
Thank you. Bob? I think what we'll do is to have, just to keep kind of on the on schedule here, we're going to ask one more question in this round, and the rest, and then we're going to go to audience questions, and then we'll come back to this. So Bob, go ahead.
Okay, Sarah, you in particular, this question. I understand you came to town about a dozen years ago?
10.
10 years ago, okay. You're pretty well known as being the watchdog, and that's been brought up already so far this morning, not only for the school board, but for the city council as well. I'm looking for your thoughts, and you've run kind of a low-key running for the school board so far. What do you think about the financial situation as far as other people running for the school board, outside funding, and should the public be concerned about that?
I think that, is this thing on? Can you guys hear me, or am I using
No,
my
move
teacher
down.
voice? There. Is that one working? Okay. Because I know we're looped for sound for hearing impaired. I don't want to be impolite. Thank you for asking me that question. And I have been sort of pursuing the district pretty actively for the last 8 years of the 10 I've lived here. And I'm running the same campaign for this that I ran for essentially when I ran for city council. When I ran for city council, I knocked on every single door in District 2. It's not possible to do that here, obviously, but I would like there to be a situation where people didn't have to spend money to gain the board position. And I think that some expenditure may give other people more name recognition, which is lamentably, along with where your name is on the ballot, the two defining factors as to whether you get elected in St. Joseph in many instances. But I'm not going to make a comment on that, except to say that I think anybody who believes that the voters in this district are going to be surprised by the likes of an out-of-town dollar coming in. And I'd like to confess that of my $400 in my campaign budget, $200 of it is from out of town.
Okay.
It's nefarious on my part, I know.
From Florida?
No, it's not from Florida even, so no. But I think it's beneath discussion to even bring that topic in, and I won't give any credence to any individual who might be trying to use that as a pivotal issue in this election when it's about the students in the district.
Eric?
I will comment, because I want people to understand that those mailers that went out, I had nothing to do with them. There's a reason you don't see Eric Bruder for school board candidate signs all over town. I don't run a campaign. I believe in people's actions speaking for what they stand for and their performance. So don't get me wrong, I'm flattered that somebody took an interest in that. And people should be, actually, those people are actually standing up for what they believe is right. They're tired of watching taxpayer dollars being wasted, so they put their money where their mouth is. They put a bunch of literature out there. They're upset, they're irritated, which everybody should be. Now, I myself wouldn't have done it like that, because I would never put something out like that about myself. I think it looks conceited. I think it's a bunch of nonsense. So, but I'm flattered somebody took the interest in it, but it didn't come from me. I have nothing to do with that PAC, and I don't run a campaign. That's why you don't see Eric Bruder signs anyplace in town. So, nor will you.
All right. Anyone else?
I don't believe Eric is spending any money on his own campaign. Is that true, Eric?
That's true.
Neither have I. We're just concerned about the kids and the teachers in this city, and we want to see what's the best for them.
All right. Art?
I need to comment on this issue because I happen to be the other candidate that these PAC mailers put out. I have got to tell you that I don't know who that PAC is. I don't know who finances it. I had no input on the mailer that went out. And when you talk about out-of-town money, you'll find if you check my financial disclosure reports, a good part of my campaign money came from out of town. It came from my personal friends across this country that I have developed in my 41 years of business experience on a national level. You know, those people believe in me as much as I believe in this city and this school district. So yes, I did take money from out of town. Yes, I have ran a campaign based on name recognition because I have not run for a political office in the past. I'm born and raised here. I know a lot of people, but there are a lot of people in this city who don't know me. So you can take that for what it's worth, but I'm telling you, that's my position.
Mr. Stewart.
One other quick comment on Art. Art, the people in this town may not know you, but they do know your son, the current assessor in St. Joe or Buchanan County. And then as far as your money, I'm pretty much sure that it all came from Herzog. Thank you.
The only response I can make to that is check the financial disclosure report and you'll see who contributed the money. And you will not see any dollars from Herzog Contracting Corp.
Okay. That's all right. Brian, quickly, please.
Yeah, sure. I consider myself a fairly reasonable person, and I know Eric fairly well. I respect Eric a lot. I've gotten to know Art during this campaign. I don't know Art very well, but from what I know, I respect you quite a bit.
Thank you.
As a reasonable person, the elephant in the room is we ask questions, and this district has faced some difficult times and concern about corruption, and I think that's where this falls. That we ask questions where, sometimes if you follow the money trail, you begin to find answers to things. And so I think my concern is I would just like everything to be above board, and we know people's intentions and the agendas, because this district, we're tired of hidden agendas and we're tired of corruption.
We're going to move on now and ask some questions that have been submitted by the audience. Some of them have been touched on in questions we've previously asked. But let me ask, and this is, we're not going to direct this to any individual. It's anybody that wants to scoop it up and run with it, is in any workplace there is conflict. How can we make sure conflict between administrators and teachers or employees is resolved in a fair and unbiased way? Anyone? Mr. Dalkin?
One of the proposals that I had was on when a new school board comes in, they would have one school board advocate. That would be a person that would be kind of a sounding board for the district, the board, the staff, the students. If they would see anything wrong or have any problems, they could report that to this person, and this person could check in on it. If we had something like that in the past, where all of this furniture and everything was going on and money was being spent and stuff like that, we probably wouldn't have had maybe some of the problems that we had now.
Yes. Ms. Pasley.
Thank you. If there isn't something already in place, there most definitely needs to be something in place where teachers feel comfortable to be able to go and not have to, and be able to voice their concerns. The morale in this district is the pits. I mean, that is my number one concern, is the morale of the workers in the district, and it's everybody. It's the village. It's not just the teachers, it's not just the secretaries, it's not just the maintenance people, it's everyone. And I think the board is aware of that, and they're working on it. I know Dr. Newhart is aware of that, and that's something that he wants to work on. But most definitely we have to put something in place, and that starts with having your voice, you, the St. Joseph School District employee's voice, at the board table. And that's the person I'm going to be. So you need to, we most definitely need to have something in place, because morale is the pits.
Ms. Northrup?
One thing that I would like for the district to consider is doing what the universities, colleges in the area do, and that is allow teachers to evaluate administrators. And I'll tell you what, that will go a long way to dealing with the morale issue, and it would be very easily done. These institutions have been doing it for decades, and they have good policies in place that we would be able to adopt. But let me give you a quick example. The peeing in the coffee pot incident at Central High School. It was miserably handled. And there are lots of reasons why that happened, but it was not the first time we hadn't had anything like that before, thankfully. But it tended to be it was not a surprise, let's put it that way. I think if those people who are in charge of handling those big decisions within our schools realized that they were going to be evaluated by parents and teachers, I think maybe the way they handle things sometimes would be much different. And I think it would go to improving morale greatly in the district. And there are some school districts in the state of Missouri, Clayton, if I'm not mistaken, which was just named the #1 school district in Missouri, allows their teachers to evaluate their administrators, if I'm not mistaken.
Mr. Bruder?
Yeah, thank you. I agree with Ms. Northrup. I think that's a fair point. I will tell you it's scary. I mean, being on the board, the number of phone calls that we get and the anonymous emails from teachers basically saying, got a problem here, I'm afraid to say something for fear of retribution. It's very frightening, and I will say that Dr. Newhart has take huge strides forward by creating an open door policy for himself, and I know that many, if not all, the members of the board have the same policy. Hey, if you got a problem, let us know, and we're going to get Dr. Newhart and his team involved and do the research on it. So there is a problem that still exists. It's very frightening, the number of phone calls and emails we get where teachers are afraid. It shouldn't be like that. And I agree with Ms. Northrup. I mean, an evaluation process would make some sense to help turn that culture.
Could I just make one quick comment to that? It was the stjoechannel.com on February 19th reported that instructional coaches were afraid to speak to reporters for fear of retaliation. And those of us who've taught in the district for a long time know that that's not unusual. But now it's finally becoming public, and it's something that we'll have to deal with.
Thank you. And did you have something, Dr.
Sure, sure. You know, I think all of our goals up here is to create a healthy district, and I think central to that is going to be healthy lines of communication. And as Eric mentioned, communication is going to happen one way or another. We might as well create healthy channels of communication, because if we don't, it's going to happen anyway. And so it's going to be really important to figure out what's the best way for teachers to be able to give feedback to administration. You know, the difference between education and say the manufacturing industry is education is a people business. The workers are professionals. You're college-educated individuals. And you all have the ability to fix problems, to evaluate problems, to come up with solutions. And I think the teachers are one of the best resources we have to figure out what is the solution to some of our problems. And so I would be completely in favor of figuring out some sort of council of teachers where teachers can communicate to each other and give direct feedback to administration to figure out some of the issues that we're dealing with.
Yes, Ms. Hochman.
I'll be brief. I think that one of the biggest assets that we provided teachers as far as communication took place in the vote that the board gave a 100% approval with one absent, which changed the aspects of our representation. Now the state is requiring or heading the teachers towards having collective bargaining. You have a choice now. There's going to be a vote. That having a choice should be the first step towards raising morale. You guys have a choice.
Okay.
So, and you can thank the board for that.
Ms. Elder.
I've sat here and I've heard Ms. Northup, Dr. Green, numerous on this committee have talked about teachers. And I'm here to tell you right now that there's more to the school district than teachers. We have got a staff, and when I say staff, I mean support staff, bar none. We've got secretaries, we've got maintenance people, we've got nurses, we've got, you name it. And if without those people, this school district could not run. And I don't want the board or anybody else to forget those people. Because without them, I mean, the teachers don't need to show up. But if the secretary and the maintenance guys are there, those buildings will be open and they will be ready for the kids, even though the teachers aren't there. And I think our staff, our support staff gets short-shifted every time. And I'm here to say that I will stand up for them. If I'm on the board, they will have somebody that will stand up for them. Thank you.
Okay. Good. Let's move on to the next question, Bob.
Yeah, this is kind of a follow-up question to what you were just talking about, Maggie, and this is probably one of the most popular questions that's come from the audience, and it's where do you stand concerning outside support staff and outsourcing it? It's not directed to anybody in particular, but whoever wants to grab it, let's kind of an open-ended question. All right, Maggie, let's start with you.
I think we found out that outsourcing doesn't really work when we did OPA. I was not involved with it. I sat back and watched, and I realized that it wasn't really good. There are some jobs, yes. that if it's a one-time situation, then yes, if there, I think, I know the comment was made that we have a full-time locksmith. I don't know whether that's true or not, really don't care. I'll just use it for an example. I don't think the school district needs a full-time locksmith. If a person locks themselves out of their building, call San Salvarinos, they'll come and unlock the door. But as a group, say the maintenance department or any other, as a group, I don't think we should even think about outsourcing.
Okay.
It just doesn't work.
All right, Kathy?
I've been very public about this since the beginning of the election season. Right now, the rumblings are there about outsourcing maintenance. I am vehemently opposed to outsourcing maintenance. The OPA situation was absolutely disastrous, but even more telling to me is that the research shows that you outsource, you have a great situation in terms of saving money for a couple of years, and then overwhelmingly those contracts then go up, and any monies that you saved are gone. So there just is not research to show that outsourcing our maintenance department is going to be a good thing, and I'm opposed to it.
Okay, Eric?
Yeah, just real quickly. In any business that I've ever evaluated or run, first thing we do is eliminate outsourcing. I believe in internal people holding those positions. It's always more effective to do that. It doesn't mean that we don't eliminate the waste we have, but I'm not an outsource proponent. I don't know where the rumors have come from the outsourcing, because there hasn't been one board discussion ever about outsourcing maintenance. So whoever started that rumor didn't come from the board, didn't come from Dr. Newhart, came from somebody within the district. So it didn't come from this board. I don't believe in it. I think it's a waste of time and effort. I do believe there still exists waste in the district. We spend over $50 million outside the classroom. Okay, 1,706 people in the district, 860 of them are teachers, $50 million outside the classroom. There's still waste out there that needs to be cleaned up, but that doesn't mean we outsource anything. Thank you.
Okay, Teresa?
I don't think we should outsource anything at all, and my reason is the same as theirs, but there's also that that exposure to not having people that have been vetted and cleared and criminal background checks. When you hire third-party people to come into your buildings or to be around your students, you need to make there's a danger there. And I think that safety in our buildings, I think it's maybe almost one thing that's been completely overlooked through all of this fiasco that's gone on. I think we need to examine the safety in all our buildings, and I think outsourcing would be I think it could be dangerous to our students, and I would say we should never do that.
Sarah?
Well, one of the major reasons I'm against outsourcing, aside from the societal issues and the other issues brought out, is that when I tried to get OPA to provide hard facts as to their claims that they had, for instance, 100% attendance, it is impossible to compel a private company who we have contracted to give us information on their operation. I find that incomprehensible, that we would allow the control of information, which was pivotal in the issues that we have now, to be diluted in any way, shape, or form, and I would not support outsourcing based on that issue.
Okay, John?
I think this district has hired consultants in the past, so that was basically an outsourcing. A lot of the stuff that they've recommended hasn't been wrong. We currently have solar panels on at least 2 of our schools in this town, and the roofs are leaking, and the solar panels need to come off. And whether they go on or not is a question with Dr. Newhart. But I don't think that so far the solar panels have not provided any savings. I think it'd be more studious to have somebody with knowledge in the district, I'm sure there is, that can give us a solution.
Okay, we need to move on, but I'll go quickly to Dr. Green.
I'm again at Bob.
Okay.
That's quick. And I recognize there's some short-term financial benefits to outsourcing, but I do think they're short term. When children leave their families and homes in the morning, I feel like we accept them into our family during the day. And that includes the bus driver, that includes the maintenance people, that includes the janitor. And so all these people are united under one mission of educating each child for success. And so keeping that family together once the kid leaves the home to back to their home, I think is really important.
Okay, all right, Ken?
This question was asked in a couple of different ways on a couple of different forums here, so this is kind of representative of it. We always hear the catchphrase, "We will attract and retain quality staff." Focusing on retain, what should we do with buildings that have administrators who have high turnover rates year after year? Anybody, please. Yes, Mr. Bruder?
Yeah, just real quick, it goes back to what Ms. Northrup said. I mean, you get down to where you're evaluating those administrators, both from the teacher level and from a supervisory level. I think we'll correct some of those deficiencies. Some of it's the environment of the building. Some of it's the environments that are created by the administrator in that building. So we have great people in this district, but it doesn't mean every one of them should be employed by this district. So it goes back to evaluation, holding people accountable.
Yes, Ms. Patterson.
I agree with Mr. Bruder in that it's time to start evaluating our administrators. Oftentimes, teachers were held accountable to a certain standard, and so one thing we haven't done in this district for a long time, as I'm an outsider looking in, is hold our administration accountable. And they would probably be the first to say, "Hold me accountable," but then we have to be able to do that in an atmosphere that's not threatening to the teachers that are going to be evaluating them.
Others on retention.
I believe that's Dr. Newhart's job. I think that's part of his job description, is to make sure that these buildings are run properly. And if there's turnover in the buildings, he's going to be the man to know. So I hold Dr. Newhart responsible for those administrators that have high turnover in their building. That's his job, to take care of that and make sure that the teachers and the staffs in those buildings are listened to and paid attention to and protected, because that we need those people in our buildings with our children.
Ms. Northrup.
We've talked about salaries. We've talked about perhaps eliminating administrators who do not deal with their staffs well. But I think there are a couple of other issues that speak to the morale of teachers, especially in the district. And one is this issue of fairness. We have got to follow board policy. And there are so many, as someone who just retired a year ago, I can tell you there's a lot of stuff that goes on in these schools that never reaches the board. It never reaches the board. And the best way to combat that is to have administration that follows board policy. And that has to be an important part of any evaluation system that we set up. And one other thing that we haven't even touched on here today is discipline. And in the middle school and high school, we are starting to reap the benefits of the flippin' workshop era, where it's been taken way, way too far. Teachers have always been friendly and loving to their kiddos. We didn't need to be taught that. But now, if you have a discipline issue with a student, and this can include fights, and it includes disrespect, it includes all manner of infractions, they'll be back in your class 15 minutes later. And the administrator is at your door with a student who is giving you an apology, and that kiddo doesn't mean that apology, and that's it. That is the only accountability for very serious, sometimes infractions, fights in classrooms. And the boys, in this instance, a teacher reported this to me just a week ago, the two boys in her classroom that started fisticuffs were back in her classroom before the end of the period, meaning those two boys that had disrupted the room dangerously were back in the same environment. They weren't even held to the next period. And we don't even want to start talking about teacher issues with cell phones. So we have got to start dealing with discipline issues in our 7 through 12 classrooms if we're going to keep our teachers and they're going to feel supported.
Thank you. We're going to move back now to the media questions. The next question I'd like to ask concerning early childhood education, and there have been numerous studies out, some more aggressive than others, even one saying that at 18 months an achievement gap starts to accrue for some young people. The district at this point, in the two biggest categories, had about $1.5 million that came from state and federal sources. The spending of the district in those biggest categories comes out to about $1.78 million. So there's the federal and state, and then there's about 253,000 local dollars, let's say general revenue dollars, that are put into this early childhood education, trying to catch those kids at an early age. My question is, at what level do you think this is important, and are you comfortable with the amount of money that's being spent on the local level to get kids at an early age? And I would direct this first to Dr. Green and then to any others.
Thank you. I appreciate the question. I think this is a really important question for our community. The community had a survey in 2014 where the community was asked, are we happy with how we're supporting early childhood education? Most of the respondents said we're not satisfied with the level right as it is right now. I think early childhood education is one of the best investments we can make as a community. I think it's one of the best investments we can make that's going to produce a student that's ready for the demands of life when they leave high school. Early childhood education prepares a child socially and academically for when they hit kindergarten. If kids start out kindergarten behind, it is really, really, really difficult for the schools to get them caught up. And so, when you and I were younger, we lived in a different world. And as our world has evolved, we've seen more and more broken families. You all that are in the buildings, you see this all the time. And kids come from really difficult homes, and they're not prepared to go to school. They're just not prepared socially, and it is really difficult for our teachers. And so the earlier we can start reaching kids as a community, the better they're going to be prepared for school.
Thank you. Mr. Bruder?
Yeah, I agree with Dr. Green wholeheartedly. I mean, there's many areas of the district we need to clean up and eliminate the waste and try to balance the budget. But as we go forward, this is an area where I'd actually stand up in front of the public, and once we detail out the line item needs of the district and ask for a tax levy that would support the additional dollars in this area. My wife volunteers weekly at Carden Park and kindergarten. And the story she comes home and tells me about how she's dealing with some of these children and helping them to read and do certain things is shocking. The disparity, I'm talking about the disparity in the educational levels these kids enter our school systems. And I can't imagine that a teacher that deals with that every day, how they're dealing with that huge disparity in their classroom. It's mind-blowing to me. So I agree 1,000% with Dr. Green. And this is an area where I think that a tax levy, and once we clean up the mess, okay, would be well justified if it's itemized out properly.
Mr. Van Meter?
I'm not going to speak for everyone sitting up here today, but I firmly believe that every one of us sitting at these two tables have the same goal in mind, and that is to provide the very best education that we can for our young people. I believe that that starts at a very, very early age, and we should make every effort to move whatever dollars that we can create out of the budget cutting into the classroom that includes early education.
Ms. Elder?
I would say that one of the things that, and I personally know about this, one of the things that early childhood education can do is if they find a child that for whatever reason is behind, they are capable of finding the help that this child needs to bring him up if he can, or to find special education for him if he can't. And I have personal knowledge of this, and I would hate to see a district that did not have early childhood education. It is imperative in this day and age. Thank you.
Yes, Ms. Pasley.
Yes, and I would echo that. Early childhood education is imperative, and you don't start that discussion by putting a dollar amount on it. You start that discussion by what is needed to bring our kids where they need to be, and then we start talking the money. Because again, as Art said, we find that money because it is important that kids come to school ready to learn. And yes, you are so very right in teaching and talking from experience. It's hard to bring kids up to a level when they're not there as they enter school. Not every child has the same opportunity coming into school because of many of the things that Mr. Bruder also mentioned, different socioeconomic levels, broken homes, whatever it might be. But the basis of this school district begins with early childhood education, and it's very important. And don't put a dollar amount on it. Let's set a goal and then work to find that money to pay for what we need to do for our kids.
Did you have something else?
I'd love to talk more on this subject. I think this is such an important subject. I think this is something that the community can really focus on and wrap themselves around. Not just early childhood education, but as Eric mentioned, literacy. Literacy is the key to education. Once you learn how to read, everything else falls into place. And so a school district and a community that's focused on reading achievement and reading proficiency and getting to that, whatever we need to do, money, volunteers, whatever it takes to get kids at a reading proficiency at grade 3, it's going to change the outcome of their entire educational course, and I think it will change this community.
Thank you. Bob?
This next question, I'm not going to paraphrase. I'm going to read it word for word because it's an important question, and it's actually asked quite well here, so bear with me. The board has been working to balance a budget that, in its draft form, called for anywhere from a $3 to $6 million in deficit spending. However, at the same time, the board has been looking at the recently completed compensation study and is trying to come up with more money to increase staff wages. Are these two goals at odds with each other? Can you do both at the same time? Doesn't trying to meet the compensation study's recommendations put further stress on what is already a budget deep in the red?
Let's go, Steve.
Okay. Let's go with John first.
Okay. Eric and the current board have increased teacher pay. Starting pay is going to be $36,000 next year, Eric. We'll find the money to get the teachers paid the compensation that they need. As far as the $3 to $6 million deficit, it may not be quite that much. Eric and the board have done some cost cutting. They've got $3 million off of it, I believe. Just try to do the best you can with what you got.
Okay, Eric?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, to answer your question, yes, of course they're at odds. I mean, we've got to cut the waste out to help pay for some things that are desperately needed. And the decree by the board to balance the budget was to put a line in the sand and force people to identify and come forward with opportunities to eliminate waste. Not to cut, okay? Whether we get to a balanced budget or not, it's irrelevant. It's that the exercise is done, that we eliminate as much waste as possible and reallocate those resources where they're needed in the classroom. And again, like Maggie pointed out earlier, it's not just teachers, it's support personnel as well that were underpaid. So what we've cut out so far is about $2.5 million from the spend. There was an additional about $2 million that Wes Metz and Dr. Newhart's identified as fluff in the budget. And that leaves us probably about $1.5 million or so short of being able to cover everything and not deficit spend, including the teacher wage increase. So, and it's not all going to get done this year, but next year with additional changes, I think we'll get pretty darn close to having a balanced budget and providing the wage increases necessary to all the staff who are underpaid compared to the competitive markets. Then we'll determine what we need to go forward with regard to early childhood education and other opportunities to go back to the public for a tax levy.
Okay, Kathy?
Yes, they're at odds. Mr. Bruder just answered that part of it, but I want to address a related part of the question, and that is, we don't have a choice. Pork, prisons, and retirement are not enough to keep this town viable anymore. We survived the loss of the packing houses. We've survived the loss of big businesses over the years. We're not going to survive the loss of our young families. We're not. And they are right now, and I said this at the chamber breakfast a couple weeks ago, they are parking their families in Platte City and down on Berry Road rather than either coming back to their hometown or young executives bringing their families here to raise them. And the best way we can do that is to have top-notch academics and amazing teachers to teach them. Ran into Bubba Fields yesterday. Anybody remember Bubba from Central High School? Terrific kid. He broke my heart. He is now living in North Kansas City District. They purposefully moved their family right next to Staley High School. And then I could almost get tearful remembering this exchange. He started ticking off the kiddos that I had in class. They are working either here or in Kansas City, and they have all put their families down in that neighborhood. And he just started ticking them off and reached 3 hands before we stopped that conversation. We have got to pay our teachers. We've got to retain that staff because this 13 to 15% rate is killing us. We can't keep losing those teachers every year. Maintain the academic reputation that is going to bring those new families here or bring them back.
All right, Sarah.
I would say that while we await gaining the trust of the public, which I'm certain we will, one aspect that I'm reminding of by Ms. Northrick's comments dovetails into the issue of flight out of this district academically. I would say that, I don't know how many of you are very familiar with the TIF Commission and the very active use of TIF, which deprives proportionately the school district from large sums of money in the short term. I hope that we will actively take the 2 seats that we have available to us on the TIF Commission and make very careful inspection of any future TIFs and the short-term loss that they will provide to us, because this is a short-term deficit. And I also believe that we need to hold the TIF recipients, many of them providing high-paying jobs, which are admirable and laudable, should have to address some kind of an incentive program to, I don't know if I'm going to use the word compel, but I guess I will, compel their employees who are benefiting from these TIFs to reside in our district. It's pretty simple. If you want our money, figure out a way to get them to stay.
Okay, Michael.
While I'm working, I usually go and I talk to different people, and they ask me about the financial situation. And a lot of them ask me, why doesn't some of the reserve fund get used to bring everybody's salary up to where it needs to be? And then after that, then you could start cutting and hours, salaries, you know, whatever you're going to do. Do we have approximately, the way I read that the budget sheet, it was about $42 million reserve fund right now anyway. I don't know what it'll be at the end of the season, but that would be one way to get morale up. I know morale is really short right now. It's pretty bottomed out. So that was one of the suggestions that I hear from people that are out, and they are the taxpayers. I'm a taxpayer. We're all taxpayers. So that would be something I'd like to see done.
Okay, Art.
You know, the issue of salary increases for teachers and balancing the budgets, those two issues are at odds with each other. But you know, this district has had a 14% turnover rate in teachers over the years. That has got to get corrected. And I believe that the increase in the salaries for the teachers that the board passed last week is a start in the right direction. And I agree with Eric. You know, Dr. Newark's been charged with presenting a balanced budget. But the reason for that is he and his staff need to go through that budget line by line and look at what can be used, what dollars can be used more efficiently. And you know, at the end of that process, we may not have a balanced budget. But if we don't, at least at that point, we can go to the taxpayers and say, we have looked at every item in this budget and we can't balance it, so we need your help. And I think we'll get that help at that time.
Okay. Dr. Green, last one.
Sure. Attempting to balance the budget is extremely important, and the reason it's important is it's because it's important to the mission of the school district. We have no mission if we're not minding our finances. We lose sight of our mission, and I think that's what we've run into in the last few years. It's going to be really important. Investing in schools is one of the best ways we can invest in our community. It's one of the best ways we can invest in the future of our community. And so at some point, when we reach a level where we feel that we are comfortable that we've got waste trimmed, we're going to need to re-engage with the community and hear what the community wants out of their schools and hear what the community wants in terms of their future and what they want for their children, and we need to invest in that. Because I agree, that's one of the main reasons I'm up here, is because working for Mosaic and some of my colleagues who work at Mosaic and choose to live in North Kansas City, and I hear that from Beringer individuals, I hear that from individuals that work out at the 139th Airlift and they choose to live in Platte City. And the number one reason often is stayed at the schools. We've got to change that. We need to build this community, and schools are one of the best ways we can do that.
We're going to go back now to some audience questions, and we'll do this round for a little time. Anybody jump in as we will, and then we'll advance to the closing statements. This might speak to how you view the role of the board and how it interacts with the administration and the other parts of the school district. If you discovered a supervisor or administrator was submitting illegal documentation to the state, what action would you take?
I think Maggie had her hand up first.
Oh,
I'll go after Maggie.
Excuse me.
If it could be proved, they'd be fired immediately. No questions asked. If they've done something illegal, they have to be fired immediately. If it's proven. But it has to be proven. But they must be fired immediately.
Mr. Bruder?
She said exactly what I would have said. But anyway, I knew I liked Maggie for a reason.
Okay, Mr. Steer.
Suspended and under the force of being terminated.
Ms. Northrup.
We haven't had a very good record in this district of terminating supervisors, whether they're in a warehouse or whether they're in central office downtown. And that has to change, and I spoke to that earlier. You know, if there's someone who is sabotaging our efforts to create a quality school district on any level, they're out of here, baby. That's why we have evaluation. They're out of here. And malfeasance and illegal activity, I think we know where that got us, not evaluating those people out. So we don't have a good record with that, and it has to change.
Anyone else?
I think everybody up here agrees.
Ditto.
Okay. I think this is probably a pretty good question to follow from what Ken just asked. Somebody I've got a feeling is probably obviously involved with the situation, but calls it a top-down management style with very little input from other stakeholders. How would you ensure concerns and needs of the people who work most directly with the children of St. Joseph are being taken into consideration?
I think we've all pretty well voiced, again, not speaking for everyone, the concern that we have that there isn't that channel of communication open right now, and that something needs to be established. And I'm not familiar enough with everything yet to know exactly what that channel is, but you know, SurveyMonkey's been around for a long time, and it's anonymous, and it can be used, and to be able to address what isn't happening in the buildings that should be happening, we do need to look at a way to open communication between not just teachers. Again, Maggie, it takes a village, I so agree, but everyone, so that they all have that. And I believe, I was raised military. My dad was a career Army, and so I know a lot about chain of command. And then being in education, I understand that that verbiage. You've got to follow the chain of command, but obviously that chain of command has been broken in this district for a long time. I think it's being reestablished. And that is something, certainly as a board member, that I would be first on, is to establish that chain of command, know what it is, make sure everybody understands it, make sure it's anonymous, make sure it's available to everyone. And but most definitely, we can't let these little things keep going on that have been going on. There's lots to fix. There was lots to fix about the St. Joseph School District before what happened. It's just now we're going to address it because something big happened.
Art?
I believe that it does take a line of communication. And I think that line of communication should be set by Dr. Newhart, and I think it should be in a structured manner, and I think it should be where a teacher does not have to fear retribution. And I believe it's the board's job to oversee that and make sure that that's happening.
Okay, Teresa.
I think this is called whistleblower policy, and I'm sure the district already has one, so why not expand it to include everything that we're talking about here, where teachers, staff, everybody can go. Those people are independent of the district, and they can compile all the complaints, and when something is, shows that there's evidently a problem, that's what the whistleblower committees are for. So just expand whatever the district already has to include this portion of it. You don't have to create something completely new, just expand what you already have.
Okay, Maggie.
This has absolutely nothing to do with what you're talking about, but a word that was used. And I think the education people are the world's worst when it comes to using words that nobody else understands. And the word was stakeholder. That, to me, that is the worst word that was ever existed, especially in the education field. Educators are the world's worst. We use acronyms that nobody has any idea what we're talking about. And I think that's one reason why I kind of bowed my neck when I was working for the school district and said, wait a minute, what does that mean? What does this mean? What does this mean? And if we're going to communicate with people that are not necessarily in education, we have to make sure that they understand what we're talking about. And to use words like stakeholders instead of students or parents or teachers or staff is a little bit, I think, a little bit demeaning.
Okay.
That's my box for today.
Duly noted. All right, Doctor.
I want to weigh in right here and really argue with Maggie and just suggest that physicians are the worst at using words that nobody understands.
I'll agree with you.
Worst handwriting, too.
Anybody here from NASA?
This question sort of speaks again to the board's role within the district and what you consider your parameters to be. In this economic environment, it is imperative that high school graduates have some form of post-high school education. In 2014, 30% of graduates did not pursue post-high school education. How do you respond to this? How do you assure that all students continue their education? Maggie.
For years, society has said every student that graduates from high school must go to college. Well, there are a great many students who do not want to go to college, they want to work with their hands, they want to be out in the public, they simply don't want to go to college. We have to figure out how, and I think one of the ways we could do it is to have a commission, a board with businessmen business people from St. Joseph and find out what they need from our students in order to be able to go into the workforce. I think Hilliard's is one of our unsung heroes. I think we should make sure that if a kid wants to be a welder, that there's a place where he can go to get that knowledge. If they want to be an auto mechanic, there has to be a place where they can go get that. And if it is Hilliard's, fine. We may want to look at a community college. We'll start that conversation. But we have to make sure that our students, when they come out of school, I know I'm older than dirt, But when I walked out of high school, I knew what bookkeeping was, I knew how to take shorthand, I knew what typing was. And I think we're losing some of that. I want to see a typing class back in. Even though we have computers, how do you do a computer? You type. And I think a lot of our people don't know how to type, and so they're hunting and pecking on the computer. And I think that's another one of my bone of contentions.
Mr. Bruder.
Yeah, Maggie hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's, first of all, you asked, I think, 2 questions, but a board's responsibility is to provide oversight. You can't sit on the board and do your job properly unless you have an autonomous view and you look at the district from the outside in and ask difficult questions. So that's answer 1. Answer 2 is she hit the nail on the head. And I see it every day. I mean, we've got a huge need out there for welders, machinists, and tool makers, for example. Okay, we don't have a huge need out there for somebody that's doing woodworking. Why are we providing woodworking classes in high school? That makes no sense. I can put a machinist to work today starting anywhere from $15 to $25 an hour. Today, I can put a tool maker to work today in this city for anywhere from $25 to $35 an hour. Okay, the work pyramids like this, every one of our students can go to school and become a PhD and be a doctor like Dr. Green. There's only so many jobs at that level. And there's only so many jobs that those kids are cut out for. And they can make a very good living and support their family forever at $25 or $30 an hour as a tool maker or machinist. And we're wasting our resources. She mentioned Hilliard's. We should have a huge program out there. There's businesses all over town that would employ people on an interim basis, internship. Thank you, Tammy. Right now, is a machinist in training or a tool maker in training. Why aren't we developing that program at Hilliard's? It makes no sense. I mean, you hit the nail on the head, Maggie. I'm with you 100%.
Ms. Northrup.
I have the answer to this. And it doesn't involve, this is one thing that really doesn't involve oversight, but it would require hiring 3 more personnel in our counseling departments. We do a great job with career counseling in terms of they take surveys, we have presentations, all of those kinds of career ed are being done. But what we don't do for the kids who would be the work with your hands kind of folks that we do for those who are going to college is we don't have a career counselor just for those kids. We have amazing career counselors for the kids who are college bound. Alicia Saunders, and I'm sure the other 2 high schools have one. She is amazing. We need an Alicia to work with those other kids. The numbers are just too great. Our guidance counselors are spread too thin, and we needed Alicia to help with the college-bound kids. We need an Alicia-type person to deal with the Hilliards-bound kids so that there can be one-on-one contact. A lot of the time, kids are seniors, and they don't realize that what they want to do, like maybe become a welder, they've already lost that opportunity. They've already missed Hilliards. But we just don't have the personnel to meet with them one-on-one and steer them where they need to go. I'm telling you, 3 people fix the problem.
Thank you. Mr. Van Meter.
Well, I don't know how you say it any better than what Maggie said. But I tell you, I come from an industry that is experiencing a huge shortage in skilled workers. You don't need a college education to run a bulldozer. But, you know, we have to take advantage of Hilliard Technical School. Along with that, we need to be talking to the community and finding out what this business community wants and expects out of the young people. And I believe we have to make every effort, and as a board, we need to provide the oversight to make sure that we are putting an emphasis on Hilliard Technical School for those kids that are not college bound.
Mr. Steer.
I'm a firm believer in lifelong learning. However, I joined the workforce with Omni Chemical at 18, continued my education at Missouri Western University after having an IT certificate in computers in Kansas City. You need to be able to keep your options open. There's only so many welder jobs out there. On this current campaign, I had advice from Dr. Kruger, Missouri Western State University, Financial and Economics Department. Mrs. Kruger is over here in the audience. I think you need to keep your family of workforce and family around you, and keep your options open.
Yeah. I think it's really, really important for this district to begin focusing on graduating a student that's ready to meet the demands following high school. I think we're seeing a shortage of that. I think we're seeing deficient of that. The business community's screaming that, would you say? Mm-hmm. I think we're seeing great needs there. Hilliard Tech is I think a key to that, and I'd love to see our district embrace more of a curriculum designed around the STEM fields, science, technology, engineering, and math. I think that would be an identifier of our district, something that we can put out in front that may attract people to our district. But we've been talking about hammers, and I've got a hammer, and I'm going to use it. It starts early. Kids have to graduate high school, and one of the keys to graduating high school is literacy. And if we start early and kids learn how to read, they'll be much more engaged in school, much higher chance of graduating, much higher chance of being successful after school.
Mr. Dolka, we'll give you the last word, and,
Okay.
and then we have one more question.
Okay. Well, my son would be a good example. He went to Hilliard's, and he's an excellent welder. And he's worked at several jobs where he does welding. He's also knows how to do woodworking. He can build a barn. He can build a house. And that was through Hilliard's where he learned all that stuff. And that's amazing, because I see some of the things he does, and it just astonishes me. In the position where he works down at Alba Chemical, he builds different or modifies machines or builds different framework for different projects that are going on. And all of this comes from the knowledge that he learned at Hilliard's, as far as mechanics and mathematics and stuff like that.
All right, this last question from the audience.
I didn't get to make a comment. I had something on there. It was towards Mr. Bruder.
Well, wait, no, we're asking some more questions, all right? So thanks so much.
All right, this last question is something that comes from someone who's citing an 18% poverty level here in town, and I'm not in a position to verify that number or not, but suffice it to say, we do have an unfortunate poverty level here, and generational poverty in particular. What policies or measures, existing or new ones, do you think could help uplift those students who live in generational poverty? Let's start with Sarah.
This is my pet subject. I want to go back to the last question that was just asked. Much praise was given to Hilliard, and I warrant that praise is warranted. But we have to stop the soft discrimination of lowered expectations in this district. Our largest subgroup is not ESOL. English is a second language for those of you who I'm very befuddled also by all these acronyms. It's poverty, you guys. I mean, and honestly, parents as teachers, in my humble opinion, is the way to interdict that. It starts literally, it's not literacy that we're looking for. The benchmark that's the most demonstrative of success, you may not know this for children, is having their parents speak to them. Just talking to your child. You don't have to use big words. It's engagement. And I hope that parents as teachers gets into every single home in this district. Some parents don't realize that they're missing the boat because of the educational poverty that we've lived under. It's not genetic to know that you should sit down and read a bedtime story with your child, or when they ask what's that, just say anything, window, door, whatever. Just answer them. These are things you have to teach parents. They will teach the children. It's the only place we can fix this. The district has to move to fully fund parents as teachers and early childhood education.
Okay.
Yes,
Karen?
I agree. Early childhood education is going to be what will help with the poverty level because we have to, a lot of those parents, because they live in the socioeconomic level they don't have the tools necessary, may not even have the education themselves necessary to educate their child. Yes, they can answer their questions, and yes, and maybe they can read them a bedtime story, and maybe they don't read. And so our best weapon is early childhood education when it comes to poverty.
Okay, John?
We have a 61% school-paid lunch program in this town. Out of 11,200 kids, that's approximately 8,000 on the free lunch program. Other districts are worse. Kansas City's closer to 91%. We can help improve improvement. Early childhood development curriculum, they've been talking about. I'm a firm believer in it, but I don't think we need to be putting Tammy Flowers in charge of it.
Okay, Brian?
Sure. I think we've talked a lot about ideas in terms of combating poverty. I'll add one more thing to that. I've talked to teachers who I think have some really good thoughts on this, and they've had concerns about the type of curriculum and how that influences a child's education. And some curriculums may fit better with certain children than others. And so, you know, this is one of those situations where I think we involve teachers in that solution because they are the boots on the ground. They work with these kids every day, and sometimes certain curriculums that are popular aren't necessarily the ones that are going to reach these kids the best. And so involving teachers in this and figuring out the curriculum that's going to reach these kids is probably really important.
Okay, Kathy?
Just one quick final comment, and this is something else we haven't touched on. I don't think it's been touched on in any of the forum. We have kids who come from very, very poor homes, some of them unstable economically, socially, and yet we have adopted this seat minutes policy in this district. I could talk for hours. And what the public, I don't think, realizes, oh, my kid is getting out this year on May 12th. What they don't realize is basically we're saving 2 weeks of utility bills, is what it amounts to. And we need to go back to the old version of days per school year. This seat minutes, was Dr. Zerwanka's baby, and it rang really true in the beginning. My point to relate to the question, though, is we're going to give up 2 weeks that we could have with those kids who come from poor and socially deficient homes, and we're going to turn them loose on May 12th, where if we went back to the old standard school days per year, we'd have them in our care for 2 weeks longer where we could work with them. Our test scores would be better, and frankly, in many cases, they would be safer. But we're not even talking about that. Seat minutes? Really? And they're getting out on May 12th. That old seat minutes goes back to the 1880s during the agricultural era. It was an excuse in rural school districts to get kids out so that they could help on the farm. And we're going back to the 1880s instead of keeping those kiddos in our care to educate them as long as we can. 2 weeks worth of utilities, not worth it. We could be educating those kids longer, and they would be safer and happier with us.
I said at the beginning that I appreciate your candidacy. I now appreciate your energy. We're going to move now to the closing statements. Again, Lacey is going to keep time for you here, and we'll start with Mr. Steer, please.
I thought really long before deciding to run for school board. Filed at the last minute. I'm proud to have put my hand in the ring. I appreciate all your efforts working in today's schools. I know it's hard. I come here, I look at a bunch of teachers, and some of you look tired Saturday morning. But I understand. You know, it's tough out there. we're moving on close to the end of the session here, another month or two. Hopefully we'll get our energy all topped back up to 100% and be ready to hit it again. Appreciate your vote.
Mr. Bruder.
Thanks, Ken. I just want to say I think all of you and the general public should be extremely pleased with the quality of candidates that you have before you. I don't think you could go wrong with voting for any one of the 10 people. Frank, I'm proud to be up here, several of which I actually begged to come and run for the board. So one, I'm pleased with that. I will tell you, as you select a candidate, please select a candidate that has the experience and the ability to provide the oversight and ask difficult questions and stand firm in the wave of complexity and controversy to make tough decisions, because there's still a lot of change needed in this district to take it forward and to improve our city. But I don't think you can go wrong with any of the 10 people. So whoever you vote for them. Thanks.
Ms. Elder.
Thank you, Ken. You know, I think back when the day that I got the phone call from Mr. Coleman. A lot of you young teachers have no idea who Mr. Coleman was. Amazing. But when he called and said, you have a job if you want it with the St. Joseph Public Schools, I was so proud that I was working for the school district. It meant a lot then, and I hope it means a lot now. I hope if I can serve on the board that I can somehow continue on with what's going on so that we finally, our teachers, our staff, our board members, our administrators can finally say with pride, I work for the St. Joseph Public Schools. Thank you.
Mr. Van Meter.
You know, I have said this before and I'll say it again. There's 10 candidates running for 2 positions on this board, and I firmly believe that every one of us have the same goal in mind, and that is to provide a better education for our young people. And Eric is correct. You know, there's difference of opinions on how things should be handled, but the ultimate goal is the same. So I ask, when you go to the polls, you think about that. You think about each of the candidates and where they are coming from and how they want to proceed with this Board of Education, and make your decision based on what you feel. Thank you.
Ms. Hochschwing.
I just ask that you please support the candidate who will, in your opinion, best be able to gain the public's trust. We need the public's trust to move forward with financing the district appropriately. There can be no question in the voters' minds that their board is in any way subject to influence or supports corrupt or inept past practices. Thank you.
All right, Kathy Northrup.
You've listened so attentively for a little over 2 hours, so I'm just going to keep it short and sweet. You may have noticed that I have kind of a passionate interest in our school district. I was honored to teach your children, truly honored, for 37 years. And really also have an unbelievable respect for the taxpayers who were also the parents of those unbelievable kids that I taught all those years. I would appreciate your vote next Tuesday. I've been saying this jokingly, but as a history teacher, I believe it. I really believe that Mr. Smith does occasionally go to Washington. And next Tuesday, I hope that I'm Mr. Smith, and I would appreciate your vote. Thank you.
All right, Brian Green.
Yeah, thank you this morning. I just want to say, when my wife and I moved back here to my hometown, we never would have dreamed that on a Saturday morning I'd be up here addressing you all about a school board race. And you know, just there was a desire to serve the community, to be a part of the community, and I just saw that this is an area where the community's broken. And I want to say it's just been an honor to be a part of this. It's been an honor to talk to everyone. It's been an honor to work with the teachers, to serve the teachers, the students of this community. I love being back in St. Joe, and I thank you for what you do. I thank you for the way you contribute. I thank you for the way you want to be a problem solver in this whole process. And so it's been a joy to be a part of this. I'll cherish this campaign forever.
Teresa Simmons is next.
I'm trying to decide who my other vote's going to go for. My focus in running is on those 11,000 students that go to school every day. You know, I think about, we talk about it not being a business, we talk about this, we talk about that, but, you know, every year there's thousands of students that are packing that backpack and repacking it the night before and reorganizing it, and parents are making sure they have what they need for the school the next day. And we want them to have that excitement about going to school. We don't want them to be burdened with the issues that have been of the past. We want to make sure that those don't happen again. We want to make sure that we have curriculum for those students every day, that we provide every opportunity for them to get the experience, to find out what they're supposed to do in their life. That's what our job is as board members and as a community. I believe a school district is a reflection of the community, and I want to help make that reflection good and shine so we can attract lots of people to our district.
All right, Tammy Pasley.
First of all, I have to say I'm very disappointed I didn't get a collective bargaining question, but that's okay. I'll address it with you personally if you want me to. I will have to tell you that my focus is going to be that child in the classroom. And I'm going to tell you also that you aren't elected as president of the largest education association in the state with 46,000 members if you're not at the top of your profession and you're not at the top of your game. And in 6 or 7 weeks, who's counting, I'm going to be retiring from education. And I bring a lot of expertise and a lot of experience in the business of school. And I'm willing to offer that to the taxpayers, to the parents and grandparents, to the school district employees. And so I would very much appreciate your vote on Tuesday.
Michael Duncan.
I first got interested in the school district problems when the scathing audit came out. As soon as it was available, I printed a copy of the audit right here. And these are 53 pages of mismanagement of funds by the school district and lack of oversight by the Board of Education. I feel that my position as a U.S. Postal Systems examiner, along with other financial positions and community service positions I have held, would give me an insight into trying to resolve the problems. That means not taking things for granted if I get on the board, research and verify, look at different objects. Look at downtown, look at the books, look here, look there. Just remember, at the end of the day, I'm for the taxpayers, I'm for the teachers, the staff, the students, the parents, and the business community that hires the people that we will graduate.
Thanks so much. I wonder if, thank you for this wonderful turnout. And if we could, let's have one more round of applause for our candidates, please. And Todd Brock, if you'd take us home.
Thank you very much. A couple of housekeeping items before we close. Please, if you brought it in with you, please take it with you. You know, we don't have a cleanup crew at the library. Second of all, Caribou Coffee and Big Sky, we have a lot of leftovers out there. They were gracious enough to help us out with that. So if you would, please take it with you. We definitely don't want to eat that. Also, Lanham Music also helped us with the sound system, and Eric was wonderful on the soundboard over there. The biggest takeaway, I've been in this district 24 years, this slate of people on the school board are absolutely amazing. The other thing that absolutely amazes me is the level of engagement of the community in this election. We have to continue this because we must have a levy here in the near future. We have to. There's no question about it. We're at the bottom. Please stay engaged after the election process and help us, please, with this community because we have to have it. If we don't, we're in trouble. And last but not least, if you want someone to educate your children, get a professional teacher. And if you want to run a good forum, go to the professionals. It's difficult for me because I like to ask, questions and things to stand back. But Ken, Bob, you guys did a fantastic job. And again, with our trust with the media, they are also a vital part of this whole process. We have to rebuild our trust with the media. We have to trust them. They have to feel like they can look at us and say, we're going to support. We have this chasm currently between our media locally and the school district. We need to somehow fill that chasm in, engage the community, and rebuild this district to the greatest school district in the state of Missouri. We can do it. Let's do it. Thank you.